on the radio, and that was for the armed
You mean
forces.
the 1880s?
Yeah, exactly. That was for the armed forces, of course, based in Germany at that point, but there was still quite a lot of them there. And there used to be live NFL games, and it was very crackly coverage on the radio, and it was always Westwood won.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Go on, just say it like you mean it.
Sorry, I was being distracted by our good friend Ron, who's asking about the recap show on Monday. We're so going out of order here. We still haven't even finished the preview show yet. Crying out loud. But I think we've said enough about the Vikings Saints here.
Hey, James, this guy is drunk.
Who, you or
no, Jay?
Just we forgot to do this with the Titans and the Patriots, but the Saints, we ranked them third in the preseason, so we pretty much got the Saints spot on there as they finished the year at second in our power rankings. The Vikings also, we weren't far off. We had them ranked 15th, and they finished the season at 10th in the power rankings. Just so everybody, we can go back. The Patriots were first in our power rankings in week 1, finished 5th, and the Titans were 19th in our power rankings when we started the season and finished 12th.
So how many of our top 12 in the power rankings at the start of the year actually made the playoffs?
At the start of the year made the playoffs? Well, it's probably easier for me to look at the top 12 that didn't make the playoffs. That would be 1, 2, 3. Only 3 of our top 12 didn't make the playoffs. So, yeah, there you go.
So who were the 3?
Atlanta we had at 12.
Oh, Atlanta. Mm-hmm.
Cleveland we had at 9. And the Chargers we had at 7.
We should be ashamed of ourselves. Cleveland.
Yeah, everyone was wrong on Cleveland.
We'll get to that in a moment. We still have one more game to get to, and it is a 4:40 kickoff time.
4:40?
Yes, and that is the Seattle Seahawks 11-5 at the Philadelphia Eagles 9-7. It will be mostly sunny on Sunday, a high of 40, but at 4:40 the sun will be down, and the low temperature is predicted to be 32 degrees. The rainstorm that will be affecting the Patriots on Saturday will have passed through Philadelphia already, so it'll be a lovely Sunday evening in Philadelphia. The Seahawks are 7th in our power rankings. The Eagles are 11th. Seahawks are favored by 1.5 points. Now, before I throw to this particular superfan battle, peel back the curtain here a little bit for you all. Justin and James recorded 31 minutes of a superfan preview. I don't know what it is that they talked about for 31 minutes because I still need to edit it down. But you will not hear 31 minutes. I'm sure it'll probably still be like 20 of the 30 minutes. So,
James, of the 31 minutes, how many minutes are you claiming? I know Justin could go on a bit, but
oh man, we both did actually. So it's fairly split.
I'm sure there's a lot of extraneous stuff from the 1900s that I'll be able to cut out. But in the meantime, let's find out together just how much time I cut out of this particular superfan battle.
Battle of the Superfan.
This is Justin, the Seahawks superfan, here with James, the Eagles superfan. I think a few weeks ago, it looked like getting to the playoffs was tenuous at all, but now you're in there defending your division. How are you feeling right now?
Not great. Anybody who listens to the Thursday show knows that I've been railing on the Eagles ever since the Miami loss. It's still bothering me that we lost to the Dolphins. I don't care how far we get in these playoffs. That's still going to be a bitter pill to swallow. And unfortunately, I don't trust any team that lost to the Dolphins this season. And they're 2 in the playoffs, but we'll only be talking about the one in the NFC today.
Eagles are going to be hoisting a Lombardi. You're going to be like, this is great, but man, that Miami game, though.
Absolutely, yes. It's going to bother me until the end of the season. Until next season rolls around, it won't bother me.
These teams are beat up. They're in rough shape.
To say the Eagles are banged up is an understatement, none more glaringly than the offensive side of the ball, where you look at the season, and Carson Wentz has been the only one healthy, really. Besides him, I believe the center, Jason Kelsey, and Seumalo, the left guard, are the only three players who didn't spend time on the injured, like missing a game at all this season. Everyone else has missed at least a game, who's potentially going to be a starter this week, with the exception of probably Boston Scott. This is just, and I know, we mentioned Michael Kendricks before we came on, watching that Sunday night game against Frisco for your division title. I saw the nasty fall he took on the sideline. I knew the way he was grabbing his knee that it wasn't going to be good, especially when he left the game. So you can shed a little bit more light on, your team's glaring injuries, because like you said, these teams are beat up. But to say any team is fully healthy at this time of year would be a little far-fetched. Everyone's coming in with, some type of nicks and bruises. Yeah,
that's definitely true. Although, the Seahawks have been, I feel like, one of the more fortunate teams in the league lately as far as injuries go. Some people do this thing where it's like, oh, everybody got hurt, fire the training staff. I don't know that they have a lot of impact over that. But, whatever was going on, things were going well until maybe 6 weeks ago when, oh, man, the dam broke. And it has just been a bloodbath out there. The reason why we have beast mode back is because we lost every single running back that the team started the season with, right? Carson, gone. Rashad Penny, gone. CJ Prosise, gone. All gone for the year. And so now we're on Travis Homer, Marshawn Lynch, and Mr. Big Biceps himself, Robert Turbin. But you know what? That's enough lamenting what we can't control. Let's talk about what's actually going to happen. I think that Carson Wentz has played really, really well this year. I read a stat that he was the first quarterback to ever throw for over 4,000 yards without throwing more than 500 yards to any one wide receiver, which is crazy to me. So what can we expect when he does have the ball in his hands?
A lot of targets to the tight ends and dump offs and screens to the running back. That's pretty much been key the last several weeks. And part of that is I don't think he trusts his wide receivers. A lot of discussions that I've had with folks, ask me about what's going on with the Eagles and why doesn't it seem like the wide receivers are involved in the game plan, is because he doesn't trust them. At this level, in your fourth year in the NFL as a quarterback, there are certain things that you should have down as far as your skill set and your craft. And throwing guys open should be one of those things. Putting the ball in the spot to where if the defender is riding your hip pocket, that guy can, run towards where the ball is going to be and catch it in stride and still run to get more yards after the catch. That's something this team doesn't have. Nope, there's like virtually no yak for this offensive receiving core. That includes tight ends and running backs as well, other than screen passes. Greg Ward has stepped up big time when he has been targeted. There's a lot of fight in him. And this is a guy who's like 5'9", 5'10" at best. So he's about the same height as Deshaun Jackson, nowhere near as far as fast as Deshaun Jackson, but he does generate some separation. You'll see him running a lot of crossing routes, not many, routes downfield. They may try to get him some wide receiver screens, fake some end arounds, design some things where he isolated one-on-one, maybe somehow gets wide open and, a wash over the middle of the field. But this is the only wide receiver he trusts at this point. And, Burnett and Rob Davis, these guys, Arcega, Whiteside, these are guys who need to get more targets, because everybody knows Carson Wentz loves his tight ends, Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert. These guys get the majority of the targets when they're on the field. So if he doesn't at least attempt passes towards the wide receivers, even if they're incomplete, just throw towards the wide receivers, give them a shot to catch the ball, keep the safeties honest to worry about what's going on in the outside instead of what's over the middle. But as far as the passing game goes, that's something that definitely needs to happen.
I really don't know what to make of the Eagles and how they match up with the Seahawks defense. What the Eagles do and sort of what you're describing, right? A lot of, passes out of the backfield and getting to the edge or throwing over to the middle to tight ends. That's what the Seahawks tend to give up the most of. Teams are usually pretty good at moving the ball effectively, just, 8 yards at a time up and down the field. And the teams that have success have done that. And so you would think that would be a great recipe to beat this team. But I don't know how much stock we can put into a game from, 6 weeks ago. But the Eagles' offense was putrid against the Hawks when they faced each other back in November.
Yeah, and we mentioned that during our recap of that game where both quarterbacks missed dump offs to running backs flaring out of the backfield wide open. That was one of the things we mentioned.
Wide open in the end zone.
And it seems like since then, Carson has pretty much hit the running backs on those sets. He's catching them. He's catching the running backs in stride, running forward. So whether it's Boston Scott, Miles Sanders, if he's available to go on Sunday, or whatever other running back we decide to elevate from the practice squad, he's able to hit these guys in stride as they're flaring out of the backfield, running upfield. So it's not like your defense has to worry about big plays unless they just blatantly miss tackles.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that having Quandre Diggs back is going to make a huge difference there, because our backup safety situation honestly sucks. And I think the secondary will be pretty well equipped to handle it. What I'm interested in is to see how well Jadeveon Clowney plays after, a week back, knock off some rust, get a little bit healthier, hopefully. Ziggy should be back. So I would love to see some semblance of the pass rush, which started to show up just a little bit. Actually, around the time Quandre Diggs came on board. I think if the Seahawks can sort of, lock down the perimeter and keep everything over the middle, and, not let those, the screens go for, big 17-yard gains like they can when they're really working. If you can just force them to go over the middle in small chunks, right, like 4-yard chunks, I think the defense can have success, especially if the pass rush gets home for a timely sack or two.
That's the part that's going to worry me the most about this game is Jadeveon Clowney. And it's not so much his health, it's where he lines up. So if he lines up on the left side of our offensive line, that's Jason Peters. I'm not too worried about that. The problem comes when he lines up on the right side of our offense, because he's not really static as far as one position, as far as defensive end and rushing. He does move from side to side. And this is why this injury report is such a big deal, because the Lane Johnson situation will dictate how comfortable I am as far as him line up on that right side. Right now, if Lane Johnson doesn't play, it'll be Halapoulivaati Vaitai at right tackle and Matt Pryor at right guard. Pryor, I'm okay with, provided there's no blitz up the middle, because that's where he struggles. Vaitai's issue is moving his feet. And if you watch the Giants game closely, especially in the second and third quarters, the two sacks, as you can see, or the pressure getting to Carson Wentz, the holding calls on Vaitai, he doesn't move his feet. He makes his initial drop back, and he doesn't run the defender out of the play. He pretty much tends to get beat on speed rushes to the outside and power moves inside because, again, he doesn't move his feet. Now, if Lane Johnson does play, Vaitai will start at right guard, which will probably more suited for him because, again, he can't move his feet. Guards are pretty much just, take your drop step, shift the guy around, move him wherever possible. But those tackle positions where you have to tend to ride a guy back past the quarterback and make sure he doesn't double back upfield, that's where Vaitai struggles. And when Clowney lines up on that side, that's what I'm going to be looking for. So
anyway, flipping it over to the other side, Russell Wilson wasn't great in that game either. The exact same scenario like you described, where you have wide open receiver for a walk-in touchdown, and you just for some reason sky that thing into the seats. I think the weather was a little bit of a factor, but I think it's impossible for me to think that Russell will have as difficult a game as he did then. That was one of his worst games of the season. He had a completion percentage like low 50s, threw an interception, which he only threw 5 all year, only threw for 200 yards. So I have to think that, just by the fact that it's Russell Wilson, regardless of any other external factors, he will just play better. The thing that worries me, though, is that was a big break for Rashad Penny. He had 129 yards on 14 carries. He was a significant part of the offense. And, Chris Carson couldn't get things going very well that day. And so being able to turn to Penny and have that speed guy who likes to bump things to the outside really, really seemed to take advantage of the way the Philadelphia defense was trying to play. That was also right around the time that Tyler Lockett was dealing with injury, so he only had one catch. He didn't look like himself. DK Metcalf had a bad case of the drops that day. So I feel like there's at least a chance for this offense to move the ball a little bit. The thing that worries me, though, is that for the last month or so, and maybe starting with this game, the offense has gone pretty ice cold, like even more so than I think they have a tendency to in like early parts of games. They've largely disappeared.